You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to Orange County's longest running business talk show. And yes, I am your host, Rick Franzi. And boy, do we have a good show for you. Why? Well, first of all, if you're watching the live stream, you see we have two guests, not one. So you get twice the enjoyment, but also the content is going to be great. I'd like to welcome Ashley Lewis and Jeff Soilson to our show. They are co-founders of Quantum ADR. And so Ashley and Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. So let's get right into it. Ashley, I'm going to throw the first question to you, and maybe you could take us back in time with the origin story. What was the original motivation you and Jeff had for starting Quantum ADR?
Well, I would say in the beginning, it started with slightly different motivations, but they merged into one. So I come from a background as a dual licensed psychologist and marriage and family therapist. Felt really strongly about giving people the skills and strategies that they need to get through difficult times in their lives before there's a big problem, right? So to help prevent the fire rather than always putting the fire out. And Jeff, with his 3 decades of family law litigation experience, was trying to, at least motivated to keep people out of court and to keep things more amicable. So together we realized that, we could help people get through really challenging disputes and conflicts and equip them with, mental health strategies and help prevent, antagonistic outcomes and things escalating and becoming bigger problems than they need to be.
So, Jeff, what have you and Ashley kind of learned? Any pivots to the model in the year plus that you two have been together in Quantum ADR?
Yeah, actually, Rick, we found that in the last year that there's just an incredible need. People want to take matters into their own hands. They want to resolve their problems on their own. They want the integrity and the respect that comes along with that safe, open communication that can take place where they're being heard. They don't want to be part of a process that is just going to overrun them. And especially not in these relationships that are intended to continue after the dispute. A lot of times we see that in co-parenting cases, and that ongoing entangled relationship, that is intended to continue has to be preserved. So the way you resolve your problems becomes the focus. That really is what we learned, that this interdisciplinary co-mediation model where psychology and law meet is how we help people.
Did you two know each other? How did you get to meet each other? I mean, what's your backstory, guys?
You want me to take that?
Please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I worked for an MCAT prep company doing their psych and soc materials, so helping to write their content and their questions and exams and things like that. It happened to be that the owner of that company went to Columbia undergrad with Jeff, so they had a long-standing friendship. Jeff was interested in using his software, and very long story short, I was put into the position to help Jeff use that software. And we realized we had some really cool synergies and decided to go in a very different direction and build our two-coach approach.
Yeah, this is unique for us here on the show. We got 1,500 plus shows in the catalog, and you're probably the first two where we see this joint mediation strategy. And so, Ashley, maybe I can ask you to continue to talk to us a little bit more about the company. Who do you help? What are you solving? And for all the people that you've worked with, who kind of gets the most value out of working with both of you?
Yeah, so we help people who are experiencing conflict or some kind of dispute. Oftentimes that happens in a family context, whether that's a divorce or separation, co-parenting, disputes over wills, inheritances, how to, share a summer home that, siblings have inherited together. A lot of different family dynamics where there is some degree of conflict, and we help people hopefully solve that specific context of the problem, but also to be able to have a more amicable relationship going forward so that they experience fewer instances of conflict in the future. I would say the people who probably get the most help from us or who benefit from us the most are people who really want to do the work. They want to take things into their own hands. They want to solve problems. They want to keep things out of court. They want to make the relationship as amicable as possible. Particularly when children are involved, we're really passionate that our North Star, our best interest, is very explicitly the children. So parents who are coming from a perspective of kind of putting their own stuff to the side and really focusing on the best interest of the kids, it's a really great way where, you know, the legal side and the psychological side fit together, I would say, even more perfectly than perhaps in other contexts. So
Yeah.
Jeff, you want to add anything to what Ashley just answered?
This blend, basically when Ashley referenced the two-coach approach, Rick, it is innovative. I've been doing courtroom work for 3 decades. I went through 2 divorces of my own, and then I pivoted to mediation. And I can tell you, this works. And I can't, and I know a lot of people in the field worldwide, and no one's doing it the same way. We work with people from start to finish. They get both of us the whole time, psychology and law. And I think that what we found is that we're working on what we call the me in mediation. It's that internal mediator inside all of us that has to step up and basically facilitate an agreement among conflicting parts. And we prep and prime people to get ready to enter into reasonable agreements, first with themselves, then with others. I wasn't able to focus on this while I was litigating. And now with Ashley, it's our complete focus, you know, and it really, that's been very inspiring.
So what I understand about the family law profession is people aren't always showing up as the best version of themselves. And people that were at one time in love with each other can become very spiteful to each other and very angry at each other. So how do you engage them, Ashley, on the front end, knowing that maybe they're not ready, or maybe they are, but what you're offering is something maybe that they're not aware they could even do?
Good question, Rick.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that a lot of our clients are aware of the importance of the kind of the psychological perspective and their own mental health through the process, and certainly of their children's. It's a big motivator for a lot of the clients who find us, and they oftentimes state very explicitly that that's what, you know, kind of sold us to them. As far as how I approach it, I'm a big believer in value alignment. So part of what I help clients do is kind of take a step back from where they are emotionally in the moment, right? As you said, there's a win-lose mentality. It's very antagonistic. It's a constant vicious cycle of escalation. And they get really wrapped up in the idea of needing to beat the other person, needing to win, needing to be, you know, stronger, fight harder, and helping them see how much that's sabotaging their lives and their children's lives, and helping them recognize that how they're feeling now does not need to dictate the rest of their lives. There's a lot of grief with separation and co-parenting. You're losing time with your children. You're losing the life that you built. You're losing your hopes, your dreams, the idea of the future that you built. And recognizing where they're at so that they can step away from making decisions from that framework, and helping them instead recognize what are their values, what is important to them on their deathbed, what is going to matter. And it's not going to be winning some court battle. It's going to be knowing they were good parents, that they were good people, and, you know, whatever it is that's important to them. And that can help them shift to a place of being more reasonable and more collaborative, and also just making peace with the fact that maybe it's not the way that they want it, but they're going to feel proud of the choices that they make when they look back in retrospect.
So Jeff, you said you had 30 years in this field and you were doing what I would think of as more traditional work, litigation, courtroom, all that. You know, there's a prescribed process for how this goes, at least as I understand it. So how, since you and Ashley have joined forces, how do you view your profession now? Maybe, and how are you approaching what it is that you know so well and bring to the value of the organization? What's your view on family law now that you've been working with Ashley?
Yeah, my view on family law is broken down into compartments, you know, and one of them is big money cases, business valuations, large, you know, support orders in the alimony and maintenance arena, not so much in the child support, because then that's obviously child related. But when it's non-child related and financial, there's a place for litigation, without a doubt. Things sometimes have to be resolved through court order because you can't come to an agreement. Okay, fine. But in the arena where you're dealing with children, family court's not the right place to fix these problems. They have to be fixed by parents, by caretakers, by a system, a family system, a family-like system. And it involves step parents. It involves blended families. There's so many special needs, parenting plans, long distance parenting plans, all kinds of mental health treatment that goes, alcoholism, all these complexities, bumps in the road, and the courts aren't equipped. And I was fighting in a place where you needed all of the safeguards and the infrastructure of a good fight. Yeah, you got great fighters. You got a good referee, but you might not have the appropriate padding or the railing or the lighting, and everything else is bad, and you're getting hit and blindsided as a result. This is what I experienced. One last thing, and then I'm sorry I go on because it's so such a major change for me. My whole thing now is mediate, don't litigate. And especially when it comes to kids. But I never want to send the message that there isn't a place for it. Safety concerns, it's huge. You have to make a safe environment. You have to make for a safe environment. You have to have effective communication. If it gets in the way of a child getting what they need, it has to stop. And sometimes there's no time. So mediation slows things down. It gets people in a place where they can be heard. Part of that being able to move on is being heard. When someone recently that we worked with said that they're on their deathbed, they included not only being a good person and being, true to themselves, but being heard now by the other side. It's important enough. They have to go on record, So that's where we're at. That's how we're helping people. And you just can't get to it in court. You get scheduled for the next court date and that's it.
Right. I probably not an appropriate analogy, but as you guys are thinking, I think of those people that they send in to defuse like an explosive, and how careful they have to be to take the energy out of what could be a very damaging situation. It feels like when you get involved, Ashley, part of what you're doing is trying to de-escalate and get
absolutely, and giving them the skills to de-escalate for themselves, right? To learn how to regulate, because again, not only important for their own best self ability, but also for their ability to be present parents. One thing that Jeff and I are really passionate about is this idea of ripple effects, that better parents are more available for their kids, and those kids having more content and fulfilled lives then go on and are nicer to their peers and to their teachers, and they're healthier, and they don't need there aren't as many fires to put out if you can slow things down, dampen the fire in the first place, then you can kind of move through life much more smoothly in a more healthy fashion. So we, and then they're nicer to their, coworkers, and then their coworkers go home and they're nicer to their partners. It matters.
The world becomes a better place,
Yeah, you're doing your part.
Becomes a better place. But just to add to that, a lot of people focus on how conflict between parents has a negative impact, a direct negative impact on children. It's obvious.
Right.
The stress within the system. But what they don't focus on as much, Rick, is that it creates a distraction from their availability to be present for their children when they are parenting. And what I found is you reduce those areas of contention and you get everything worked out ahead of time. Now you can have some fun. Now you can parent. Maybe it's not so fun. Maybe it's discipline, whatever it is, but you're fully available. You're not distracted because you're getting pinged by text messages, because you're in a conflict about what time you pick them up. So it becomes very, like Ashley said, the ripple effects, the positive ripple effects become long lasting. Now I'm focused on kids because, the parenting relationship can last for the life of the children.
Right.
Judges used to say, today you're going to be divorced. You will no longer be husband and wife, but you're going to be co-parents for a long time. And I used to think about it. How long really? It's not how long each of them are alive. It's how long their children are alive, and then their children's children, and then it goes on for a long time.
Right.
So
this is great. I really, you brought out a level that I really now appreciate better, which is when children are involved and the long tail effect of the divorce on the kids. And that's such an important thing, because you leave them with the early life scars that maybe they have to deal with later in their life, right, Ashley, if it's not properly resolved at the time.
Yeah. Whether or not they choose to deal with it, there will be something to deal with.
Right.
And it also influences their view of relationships.
Right. And trust.
And trust, and the idea of being romantically attached and what that means for them.
Commitment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We could do a whole show. We could do a whole show in this area of your practice, right?
Count us in. It's great. We love it.
I would also just say quickly, outside of just the mental health impact, there's also a really practical impact. People are putting 5, 6, 7 figures into litigation that could go on to their 529s, their kids' college educations, grad school, helping them through internship, helping them buy a house one day, having a vacation home where you can go and do special experiences together. There's so many better ways to spend that money.
That's right.
Yeah, because you're going to end up giving away or getting only half of what you thought you had anyway, right, Jeff? So you better conserve, Ashley, as much of that as you can, because you're going to need it when the next phase of your life. Let's change the focus a little bit. Yeah. Jeff, is there a piece of business advice that you've picked up in your career that you could pay it forward to our audience today?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's never too late. It is never too late after all that time litigating and reaching a point where I felt I had accomplished all of my goals in that field. And I left my firm as of the end of last year, and I took a leap. It was a quantum leap. and I felt like there were plenty in my world that care about me, who felt that I shouldn't do this, that I'm needed in litigation, that they wanted me in their partnership, whatever it is. But it's never too late to recognize that you want to be aligned. Ashley mentioned value alignment, that you want to be aligned with your values in what you do for work, because it's such a major part of our lives, and to feel passionate about it and to not feel like it's work. I think I know you well enough, Rick, already to know that you probably feel the same way about what you do. So that's the best piece of business advice. Do it, Jeff. Do it now.
Thank you. That's great. I'm wondering how you see, as entrepreneurs and in your professions, artificial intelligence. And Ashley, if you have a view on how you and Jeff maybe have talked about it, or your personal view on AI, could you share that with our audience?
Sure. My personal view just in general of AI is that, with big power comes big responsibility. I think I butchered the quote, but that general sentiment. I think there's a lot of promise and a lot of things it can accomplish, but I also think we need to be mindful of the many ways that things can go wrong. So balancing innovation with, some caution is my personal view on AI. As far as our business and AI goes, I do hope that over time people are afforded the opportunity to be more self-sufficient due to AI. My hope is that the court system becomes more easily navigated, that AI can support people in filing documents, in moving through these different phases of their lives without having to rely on litigation and having legal support for every decision. And also to help our clients at some point, maybe through like a local AI, in terms of like a chatbot, to be able to kind of give them mental health strategies, to be able to help them differentiate between the services, to know if they're, looking for arbitration versus mediation versus coaching. A lot of people don't know the difference. And so to be able to kind of support people through that initial process without having to, interact with us or some other, human employee to get some of those pieces of information.
Yeah.
Jeff, anything to add?
Yeah, Rick, just from the court's perspective, I'm involved, and I want to get more involved in the court's efforts to use AI to be able to early intervention in dispute resolution, to get cases out of the backlog and to put them into the hands of mediators, and to mediate cases and go to the court with resolution, with the problem solved. And through AI, I think that there'll be a localized, private, confidential way of screening out cases appropriate for mediation. If it could go even further, I would have it recognize that there's model language in judgments that have kept people out of court. There's model language that has brought people back to court because they thought about it so much. So don't use it. Boom, it gets knocked out of your agreement. Something, to help with the backlog because of delay, especially again with kids. Things change so frequently. You have people fighting over something, and 6 months later it's moot because the camp is over. So I think that there's ways to get this on a court-wide level where it'll help with access and efficiency. Beautiful.
All right, let's talk about the future. You two entrepreneurs, you're building your business. So I'll display my ignorance. Quantum ADR. Tell me what ADR stands for. What does that mean?
So ADR stands for the alternative to court, keeping you out of court through dispute resolution that is done, in our instance, online, worldwide, interdisciplinarily, with co-mediation with a psychologist and a lawyer. And then in the world of arbitration, it's binding decision making, it's private judging, it's making decisions that people will be bound by, in most cases, by contract. There's ways to get out of it. There's ways to fight about it. There's ways to overturn it. But it's arbitration. And that's where retired judges are doing a lot of this work. Very experienced litigators are doing this kind of work. And then the third is what we call conflict coaching. So basically, when we work with one individual, we're coaching them through a process of solving their problems. When we work with more than one individual, we're mediating. And that's it. When you talk about parenting coordination, there's all kinds of labels. It's co-parenting mediation, plain and simple. So I think what we're looking at is alternative dispute resolution on the quantum level that includes mediation, arbitration, and coaching, with Ashley and I focused on the mediate. And that's our sweet spot right now, especially when it comes to parents and families and even trusts and wills. I mean, the disputes between siblings, oh my God, it goes way back to the sandbox. It's even earlier than the spouses that met. It goes back to, mommy loved you more than me. This is what happens over a summer house, that you receive as a bequest. And then they're fighting, and all they really need is an Airbnb sharing agreement. It's a simple fix, but no one sees it. I hate this person. I won't even be in the same room with them. Okay, work with Ashley.
That's so interesting you say that. And Ashley, I'm going to ask you to give your perspective on the firm as well. But I was just having a conversation this week about how energized people can become over the littlest things in a family will when mom and dad aren't there to when that governor is taken off the relationship. The kind of stuff that can happen can be lifelong, can change, can alter the relationship they can't get past it into the future, which is so that's certainly not what the parents would have wanted, I would think, for their kids on their passing.
Definitely.
So Ashley, anything else you want to add about quantum ADR that we didn't get a chance to touch on here today during the show?
I don't know that we haven't touched on it, but I would just, I guess, re-emphasize the fact that I think what makes us unique and what we're most passionate about is the fact that the two of us come together from beginning to end, that it's, I think, a really cool dynamic. Jeff and I are in many ways yin and yang. We have very different personalities. We have different backgrounds. We have different life experiences. So outside of just our professional paths, we also are just two unique humans who come into the, room, so to speak, in an online environment and are able to offer different perspectives, different ways of looking at things, different solutions. And I think that kind of that creative approach and just the brainstorming sometimes can be enough to help people feel more hopeful, feel that there might actually be a light at the end of the tunnel, to believe that it might be worth having an amicable relationship with a sibling and talking about what values might be associated with that, how they might feel about their parents looking down on them if that's their belief, or whatever their belief in the afterlife is. Oftentimes there's this huge rupture and a lot of tension and antagonism, but there's also a lot of guilt and shame that they are disappointing their parents, or that they didn't just apologize, or that they did actually contribute to that problem that they don't want to acknowledge. So helping them be more accountable so that they can feel proud of themselves is really important to me.
Yeah.
Well, this is great work that you both are doing, and I'm so excited to have you here on the show. When we first met and we talked, I was looking forward to this conversation today. So thank you both for what you do, how you do it, and the fact that you shared it a bit with our guests, our audiences here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
And thanks to the audience. You've been a part of Orange County's longest running business talk show. And this episode will join our catalog of 1,500 plus shows we've done over the years. If you happen to be an Orange County entrepreneur like these two and you want to share your story, or maybe you're a nonprofit leader and you'd like to share your nonprofit story, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Rick, R-I-C, Franzi, F-R-A-N-Z-I. And between Haley and myself, we'll be more than happy to get you ready to be on a future episode of Critical Mass Business Talk Show. And until then, I hope all of your business decisions will move your organization in a positive direction.